Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about buy low trade targets. These are players that have low value right now because they are struggling, but I do think if you make trades for them, you could win the trade in the long run and really help your fantasy teams. Not only will I be breaking down why these players are buy low candidates in the first place, I am also going to be giving you guys some trade ideas and suggestions that you can make for these players, specifically pairing them with sell high candidates. So without further ado, let's get right into it. The first player that we are going to be talking about today is Stuart Skinner of the Edmonton Oilers. He did just get a win against Vancouver, in which he played really well, but there is one reason why he's a buy low candidate, and that reason is Jack Campbell. In his last 7 games, Campbell has a 6-1 record with a 2.28 goals against average and a 915 save percentage. Extremely solid numbers, and these are way different than the numbers that he had early on in the season. I've said this in previous videos. If Campbell starts playing decent, the Oilers are going to give him every opportunity that they can. They need to justify this contract to their fans, to themselves. But I still think Stuart Skinner is the better goaltender, so I wouldn't buy too much into Campbell's recent play. Because there's this looming threat of Campbell starting more games, Skinner owners might be a little bit panicked right now, which means that you might be able to get a sweet deal for him. So the question is, what are some good trades for Stuart Skinner? We have a bunch of sell high guys on this list. I think an option could be Phoenix Copley. I know he just had those 2 games where he played horrendous. His goals against average was terrible, but in his last 2 games, he just got 2 W's and played really well. So people might be thinking, hey, Copley is starting pretty much all of the games for the Kings aside from back-to-backs. This could be a more favorable situation than Skinner, who might be splitting starts with Campbell for the rest of the season. Another goalie that you might want to consider trading away for Skinner is Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen of the Buffalo Sabres. He has been playing really well lately, along with the Sabres, who have been winning more games. And previously in the season, they were doing a 50-50 split with their goaltending situation. Now it looks like Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is the number 1 starter. Personally, even if Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is the number 1 starter for the rest of the season, I don't know how much I want to trust a Buffalo goalie going into your fantasy playoffs, which is why I would suggest trading him while he is hot. Another goalie that you might want to consider is Martin Jones, and I know he's been playing amazing, and so have the Kraken. They were just first in the Pacific. I don't know if they are currently still in that first spot. However, Martin Jones' save percentage is absolutely terrible, and I don't know if Kraken are going to keep up this hot streak. With that being said, yes, there is some risk, but I would feel far more comfortable going into the playoffs with Stuart Skinner as one of my goalies rather than Martin Jones. Other players that you could potentially trade for Skinner are Carter Verhaeghe, Joel Eriksson Ek, and Rickard Rakell. These are all fantastic players, but I do think they are on a little bit of a hot streak right now, and they will cool off a bit. They are going to be serviceable for the rest of the year, but if you are looking for a goalie, you can trade a forward and replace them with someone good on the waiver wire. It's always better to get the goalie in some of these deals. Number 7 is Logan Thompson of the Vegas Golden Knights. As I'm recording right now, they are tied 2-2 with the New Jersey Devils, so the stats that you guys are looking at right here are not going to include this game. But as you can see here, guys, he is 6-8-1 in his last 15 games. He has an 8.98 save percentage through this stretch and also a 2.80 goals against average, so Thompson is certainly struggling. Vegas started off super hot at the beginning of the season, and Thompson's numbers were absolutely incredible, but they have been struggling as of late. However, I do think that the Vegas Golden Knights are still a fantastic team, and when Stone comes back after the All-Star break, they will pick it up. With Logan Thompson being a rookie, there are likely going to be a few bumps in the road, but I do believe that this is probably the lowest value that he is going to have for the entire season, so you could probably get a pretty sweet deal for him. With all that being said, what are some trades that you can make for Logan Thompson? There are a number of sell high candidates, like I said with Stuart Skinner, and we'll start off with some goalies: Martin Jones, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, Phoenix Copley, Sam Montembeault. These guys I do not think are going to be reliable going into fantasy playoffs, and I would like to ship them off while they are on their hot streaks. Again, these don't have to be 1-for-1s, but you might want to include them in package deals. Carter Verhaeghe, Joel Eriksson Ek, Arturi Lehkonen, Seth Jones, Adam Larson. All of these guys I do think are sell high candidates, and they are going to regress, which is why I think they could be good trades for Logan Thompson. The next player is Jake DeBrusk of the Boston Bruins. He has been having a really good season this year, but he got injured during the Winter Classic. A Winter Classic in which he scored 2 goals with this injury. He had a broken fibula and he still managed to score 2 goals. Super impressive, but he has been out since that game, January 2nd, and he is likely not going to be back until a couple of weeks. The reason he is a buy low candidate is because of this injury, certainly not because of his play. He has 30 points in 36 games, but 16 15 goals in these 36 games, putting him on pace for 36 goals in a full 82 game season. The person that has DeBrusk in your league could be making a push for the fantasy playoffs or is trying to stay in that playoff spot. DeBrusk is not going to help them achieve this if he is on the IR for the next couple of weeks or even a month. This is why he's a buy low candidate. You can give that person immediate help and then you can reap the long-term rewards. You can likely get a really good deal for him if they are not going to be patient. In terms of making a trade for Jake DeBrusk, you can go a couple of routes. You can go with the sell high route, which is obviously the most ideal, or you could just trade a player that is solid, reliable, and decent, but DeBrusk is better than them. I personally value DeBrusk really high because he does have that left wing, right wing eligibility, and also the Bruins have one of the best playoff schedules. So keep that in mind when I'm reading these trades off. I'll read these rapid fire because I've talked about them already, but you have goalies like Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, Martin Jones, Phoenix Copley, Sam Montembeault. Again, these are not going to be guaranteed deals that you could make, but you always got to try. I really like trading pure centers for guys that have left wing and right wing because right wing is a scarce position. So players like Dylan Cousins, Nazem Kadri, Joel Eriksson-Ek, Anze Kopitar. These are all great options. I think you will likely win the trade if you get DeBrusk and he comes back healthy. Defensemen like Seth Jones and Adam Larson, maybe a guy like Carter Verhaeghe, Kevin Hayes. I don't know exactly what you can get, but try some of these players because they are a good mix of the positional scarcity that I talked about, sell high players, and guys that I think DeBrusk are better than. Number 4 is Jack Eichel of the Vegas Golden Knights. The Vegas Golden Knights played amazing at the beginning of the season, and so did Jack Eichel, but the team and Eichel have been struggling as of late, which is why he's a perfect buy low candidate. In his last 15 games, he only has 8 points. Of these 8 points, he has 4 goals. And yeah, that is not good, especially for a guy of Eichel's caliber. On the season, he has 34 points in 36 games, which is great, but a lot of people were expecting him to be an over point per game player, looking at some of the seasons that he had on Buffalo, so it's certainly disappointing. I do think Eichel is just going through a mini slump and he will bounce back. It certainly doesn't help that Mark Stone is out of the lineup, and with this poor play, you might be able to get a good deal for him. So trades that you can make for Jack Eichel, obviously he is a bigger name value, and the players that you are going to trade for him are going to be pretty decent themselves. So I have a few guys here, and like I said, you might want to do a package deal. A 2-for-1 is always the best way to go when you are going to get a superstar like Jack Eichel. Take a look at a guy like Martin Jones if you were trying to package together a deal for Eichel. Obviously not a 1-for-1. I don't think anyone is going to do that. With that being said, maybe a deal like Martin Jones plus Nazem Kadri for Jack Eichel could work. I know that Eichel has a lot of name value and it's not going to be easy to trade for him, but you want to get creative and do some sort of 2-for-1 deal. Another guy that you might want to package in some sort of deal is Trevor Zegras, who has went on a little bit of a hot streak. I don't trust it at all just because of how bad Anaheim is. In terms of a 1-for-1, I think a Bo Horvat for Jack Eichel trade could actually be really good. I think Horvat is going to get traded. If the Canucks didn't trade him, they would be stupid. And in general, what I've seen with trades on the trade deadline, because the players have to get acclimated to this new team and a new system, they don't end up performing that good. Again, there is some risk because Horvat has been so good, but I do like that trade. Another player that I might want to look at is Patrick Laine for Jack Eichel. Laine has been playing really well as of late, but again, you want a guy like Eichel on the Golden Knights rather than Laine, who is on one of the worst teams in the league. The last guy I would consider trading for Eichel is Mark Scheifele. Of course, Mark Scheifele has been scoring a lot of goals this year. He has 29 goals in 44 games, but he doesn't put up a lot of assists. I just think Eichel has the potential to be an over point per game player and perform better than Scheifele, so I generally like that deal, but it might be a pretty even trade at the end of the day. Number 3 on this list is Gabriel Landeskog of the Colorado Avalanche. He has not played a single game this season because he has been recovering from his knee surgery that he had back in October. Unfortunately, this is the second knee surgery that he has had in a year, which isn't the greatest, but I still think he could be an amazing trade target and give you a lot of value if he can stay healthy. The key when trading for Landeskog is that you would hope the person who owns Landeskog is trying to make a push for the fantasy playoffs, is trying to stay in the hunt, and the fact is Landeskog is not going to give them the immediate help that they need. Landeskog hasn't even started skating yet. He's going to start skating after the All-Star break, which is going to be basically early February, and I'm assuming in the next couple of weeks they are going to ramp him up, and he is likely going to return to the lineup late February or early March. However, there is a chance that he doesn't even return until the real NHL playoffs. And if that's the case, there is some risk in trading for him. So I do want to let you guys know that you could trade for him, and it could be a massive L. Now, despite all of this injury stuff, if he does come back and he's healthy and he's ready for the NHL playoffs, he is going to be fantastic, especially because the Colorado Avalanche have probably the best playoff schedule in the entire league. I think a guy like Travis Konechny for Landeskog could help you. Obviously, this would hurt you in the short term, but if you are in a top position, top two teams, you're likely going to get a bye. This could end up working in your favor. For me, I am in that position and I am trying to maximize my games in the playoffs. There's also guys like Rickard Rakell, Sam Reinhart that could be good options. I don't know if that's enough to get Landeskog. And then even guys like Evgeny Malkin and Mark Scheifele. Another guy who I've talked about in pretty much all of these players is Martin Jones. If the guy who has Landeskog needs a goalie, that could be a good trade as well. Maybe even a guy like Jamie Benn. I know he's been fantastic this year, but when you're comparing the two players, Landeskog is clearly the winner here. He could put up a lot of fantasy points when he comes back. And then, like I've said, maybe some sort of package deal, or maybe a 1-for-1 depending on your owner. Maybe he just wants immediate help right now and he's desperate. Guy like Carter Verhaeghe, Joel Eriksson-Ek, these guys are playing really well as of late. Or maybe even a defenseman like Vince Dunn, who I know has been amazing, but it is kind of like a really big hot streak in the past 2 weeks. I don't know if that's sustainable. Number 2 on this list is Chris Kreider of the New York Rangers. After such an amazing season last year, he has kind of come back down to reality. He hasn't played terrible, but he only has 30 points in 44 games and 19 goals. Last year, he had 52 goals in 82 games and 77 points. Obviously, I did not expect him to hit this mark again, but still, the fact is, even if you think these numbers are likely on par with how Kreider should play, in his last 17 games, he only has 7 points, which means that you could probably get a really sweet deal for him. In terms of players that you could trade for Kreider, I'm just going to go through these rapid fire because I've talked about them so much in the previous players, but maybe a guy like Trevor Zegras, who's been going off lately, Nazem Kadri, who has picked it up. I just think the Rangers have a better offense than Calgary, and even guys like maybe Dylan Cousins or Kevin Hayes. I know they don't have the greatest name value, but they have been playing better than Kreider as of late. Maybe a guy like Sam Reinhart, Carter Verhaeghe, Joel Eriksson-Ek, or maybe some sort of 2-for-1 deal. And like I said in all the players before, Martin Jones is also a viable option if the player who owns Kreider needs a goalie. All right, the number 1 player on this list is Vladimir Tarasenko of the St. Louis Blues. I just watched them play Buffalo and they lost 5-3. Tarasenko did not have any points, and the Blues are kind of a dumpster fire this year, guys. They are probably going to trade Tarasenko before the trade deadline, and I do think, regardless if he stays on the Blues or not, he is going to be a great buy low candidate. He hasn't played terrible this year. I mean, he's almost a point-per-game player. The problem is his goal scoring. He only has 10 goals in 34 games compared to most of his career, other than the injury years. He's been pretty much a 30 to 35 plus goal scorer in this league. Last year, he actually had a career high number of points with 82 points in 75 games, and he also potted home 34 goals. I just think he's a really solid player, and even though I've talked about how I don't love when players get traded to different teams, some of the teams that they discussed Tarasenko going to could be really good for him. I've heard rumors about the Rangers, rumors about the Washington Capitals, and I think because the Blues are doing so bad this year, a change of scenery could really help his production. Now, like I've done with all of these other players, here are some trade ideas for Tarasenko. I think this is a great time to trade for him. Probably was a better time to trade for him about a week or two ago while he was still injured, but nonetheless, you could probably still get a good deal for him. Try to do a package deal, maybe a defenseman like Adam Larsson or Seth Jones, combined with some sort of forward like Joel Eriksson-Ek or Carter Verhaeghe. I also like selling high on Trevor Zegras, maybe trading a guy like Sam Reinhart, Nazem Kadri, even Dylan Cousins. Even though he doesn't have the biggest name value, I think that potentially could be done. You could also do some sort of package deal with the goalie. Martin Jones for Tarasenko could work 1-for-1, or you could add a forward with Jones to get Tarasenko, or you could do maybe something like Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, some sort of goalie that is doing pretty good lately. It all depends if the player that has Tarasenko needs a goalie, but I like that idea. That's pretty much it, guys. I will catch you in my next video on Saturday. It is going to be a Week 17 guide. Please hit that like button. Let's try to get to 60 likes on this video, and also hit that subscribe button if you are not subscribed. Like always, have a good one.